and board members. We have a few members of the public wishing to provide a public comment. There will be 4 members. We will start with Mr. McNamara. Just want to make sure, in order to get to all the speakers, that remind everyone that they have 3 minutes of speaking time. Mr. McNamara.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to address the board today. It's been a long time coming. I'll speak to item number 2 relative to the liability policy regarding employment practices. I've got a long history with the authority as a former employee, and I think I'd categorize their employment practices as less than transparent, in some case very callous. Over 38 years ago, I was tasked with patrolling the St. Nicholas houses as a uniformed member of the Housing Police Department. Despite an order to patrol in pairs, I was sent out alone as my partner was sick. And this was in an era where there were no vests. Within 3 hours, I was being administered last rites at St. Luke's Hospital after an individual attempted 3 distinct times to end my life. While hospitalized over 5 months, the reality of the support I could expect from NYCHA and the city of New York became painfully apparent. Neither the mayor, the PC, nor the housing chair made the time to visit me in the hospital. While I was in the hospital, my locker was ransacked, my police equipment and personal effects stolen. When my hospital discharge date approached, I approached NYCHA and asked for housing assistance. They gave me a single application for a housing development 2 blocks from where I was originally shot, which was completely thoughtless. Immediately after discharge, a concerted effort was mounted, and from the documentation, it seems to be the impetus was from NYCHA to hasten my retirement. This was reinforced in a meeting with Housing Chief Benjamin Wood, who ultimately became police commissioner. As police commissioner, he never forced anyone to retire who was severely disabled due to a line of duty injury. So it was in stark contrast. In fact, those employees stayed on the job until they were 63. When I resisted retirement, I was sent to a midnight shift in East Harlem without a designated parking spot or an accessible lavatory. I relieved myself in a parking lot each night at 4 p.m. Ultimately, I did retire, and NYCHA generously arranged until I was finalized a pension of $19 per month for the first year. I refused to sign my retirement documents, and NYCHA and the Housing PD both refused to help improve that situation. What I'd like to do is contrast that with the treatment of the NYPD towards injured officers. They have over two dozen officers who are on what's called the mayor's exempt list. The genesis of the mayor's exempt list is Mayoral Directive 7814, which gives agencies the power to exempt people from forced retirement. MD 14 was designed to get people with minor injuries and languishing on payrolls off the payroll so that they could hire a full-time employee to do the job. Most agencies, such as the fire department and the police department, interpreted that to assist severely disabled. Housing, interpreted that to dispose of me, and they were ultimately successful with that. The position of MD 14 only came to me in 2012 when I executed a FOIL request to NYCHA. That's when I first understood what 7814 was. And the contention of housing and the PD since then is that I was not entitled to unlimited sick leave. However, I have provided all parties a copy of the pertinent collective bargaining agreement that indicates I was. In fact, your own VP of security here today, who was hired with me in the Housing PD, was brought in that era with that particular unlimited sick leave provision. Mayor de Blasio and his predecessors have said time and again, we have a moral obligation to assist in every way disabled first responders. May not be a legal responsibility, but it's certainly a moral responsibility. As far as I'm concerned, that moral obligation extends to NYCHA as well. And they've been remiss in addressing this despite repeated requests. I fight every day to keep my head above water and have done so for 38 years. If I have a flat tire, I fix it. If I need medical supplies, I battle for approvals and pay out of pocket. I endure multi-year waits for wheelchairs and wheelchair parts. I have to handle skin ulcers and urinary tract infections of my own. In contrast, if a member of the NYPD needs those services, they merely need to call their department. The department has a conviction to preserve their dignity and support them for the long run. Some cases for decades and decades. Nothing has been easy for me. I'm appealing today for NYCHA leadership to hear me, to provide equitable support, benefits, and compensation to which I'm entitled since I had a contractual parity with all of these other organizations. NYCHA always had the discretion to assist. The NYPD had the discretion, and they did it. What NYCHA has lacked is the wherewithal. In closing, maybe I exceeded, but I do want to note that last month you had a speaker for 5 minutes and 33 seconds without objection. So thank you for the time today, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. McNamara. Our next speaker, chair, will be James Myers from Patterson Houses. Mr. Myers? Is Mr. Myers here?
Yes.
Step up to the mic. Thank you.
Good morning. You know, I'm coming back begging again. Okay, in Patterson, we need doors. The entrance doors are gone. They need the panic locks where you push the door to open. We don't need that type that they have now. It's no good. Okay, and also we need to have the building pointed. It's not pointed. We need a new community center, which we don't have. I was told that that housing do not supply the new community centers. They do not. Okay, a couple of years ago, they had funds for Patterson. Housing had money set aside for Patterson to put up a community center. Now, what happened? All the rest of the project has new community center, but we do not. We don't have anything. We're still meeting that same basement. When it rains, it pours in there. So I think it's time that either NYCHA get together and talk to someone to help us get a new community center. Now, this is something, every time I come down here, I talk about the same thing, either pointing, boilers that we need. So this is something that we dire need in Patterson. The building need to be pointed. They haven't been pointed over 30 some odd years. Okay, some of the things like, I know that they're working on the boilers because some of the gentlemen here spoke on the boilers and they, contact us and say that, they're working. But the point is, and that new community center, we definitely need it. If there's anywhere that you can either spare someone to help us get this is what we need. Okay, we have a gentleman, a young kid that's doing a basketball tournament. We need someone to help us get the rims for the basketball thing. This guy took out his own money and painted the coats, and he had bought some rims. He went to the tenant association and asked if they can help him. They told him no. But somewhere down the line, we need these things to help our community. Because this guy, he's working with Stop the Violence in the community. So if there's any way that you can, help us, number one thing, our new community center and the point. Okay, I'm not going to take, the last time I took a lot of time. I'm not going to take that much.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Myers.
thank you too.
Our next speaker is Nellie McKay from Patterson Houses. Ms. McKay?
Good morning.
Good morning.
First, I'd like to thank God. Today, I'm 87 years old.
Congratulations.
I came to thank Mrs. Otoya for keeping your word about the ramps. And I want to say, may God bless you. And I hope we all can work together because we need to work together to build a better community where we live. And I've been working in Paddles for 50 years. And I was the first one started a garden. And I want the Tenant Association to work with me. We want to work together. We can't work by ourselves. We have to come together and do things together. First, you have to put God in front. So when you do this, you can get things done. And I want to thank you again. And I'm looking forward to it. And also, all the seniors want to thank you. Because some of the seniors would like to go shopping, but they can't. Because they can't ask their family to come down and take up from their jobs if they don't have a job. And thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Board members, may I make a comment, please?
I will most.
I know, just a quick comment, please. At the direction of the chair, the general manager has a status report twice a week on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. We have now dedicated one of those meetings to site visits so that the senior team can see what's going on at the sites. And I will be at Patterson tomorrow.
I'll see Mrs. Cat.
Our last speaker is Mary McGee from Fulton Houses.
Good morning, Madam Chair,
Good morning.
board
Good
members.
morning.
I'm here about Fulton Houses. I know the development is a done deal. But my question is, what is NYCHA gonna do for Fulton, for the residents of Fulton? You know, we've had scaffolding up for about 2 years, no work being done. The scaffolding that you have up is gonna cost you the same amount if the work was already completed. Then you have, excuse me, the lack of communication between NYCHA and its residents. Residents aren't being informed of when NYCHA is having events. They'll put one flyer on the wall by the elevators, but besides that, nothing. When you have water being shut down or no heat, only one notice downstairs in the lobby. Many residents do not go downstairs on a daily basis. We do throw out our garbage every day. So if you post it on every floor, then more residents will see. I've been to NYCHA budget meetings. You have more staff than you do residents. And you need to ask why. Because the communication between NYCHA and its residents is not getting out there. It's not reaching residents. So I would like NYCHA to think about this development. You're building on Fulton. You need to give back to the development. The development has needs. To have scaffolding up that long, it makes no sense. And my other concern is in this meeting, we've been like notified unofficially that NYCHA is planning on taking two more parking lots in the future. So yes, I've heard it from a community board member. I've heard it like insinuated from elected officials saying in the future. So you think about, we live on 14th Street, 9th Avenue, Chelsea Market. We have the hotels. We have so much going on there already. You have to think about the quality of life of the residents in your developments as well as the community. It's too much, it's too much. I know the developer on this project, he's fixing the playgrounds and, doing the basketball court, but what is NYCHA doing for us? I thank you for your time and appreciate some being done.
Okay, that concludes our public comments portion, and we may proceed with our regular calendar by starting with a motion for adoption of the regular meeting for Wednesday, June 29th.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We can move now to the chair's report.
Great, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. I got the short chair this morning. Here we go. All right, good morning. It's great to be here. Thank you, everyone, for the folks who made comments. I think some of the issues that folks raised will be addressed in both my and the general manager's report. I want to wish Ms. McKay a very happy birthday. She has we have the distinction of of her also sharing a birthday with our own corporate secretary, Ms. Vilma Varega. So happy birthday. Lots to both acknowledge and celebrate here this morning. Before I jump into my report, board members, I think it's important to note that in the governance of the Housing Authority, we all serve at the pleasure of the mayor. And as the new administration came in 2014, both the mayor, with this appointment of me, and then my request to particularly our resident board members was to continue their terms for continuity, for my own education and transition as taking over the authority. And I want to thank them for that agreeing to do that. And we've now come to the end of their respective terms. And the mayor had tasked me to launch a public process for new resident NYCHA board members. That's been a process that's been was opened earlier this year. Talk about communication. It was letters, emails, websites. We utilized other city agencies to encourage those NYCHA residents in good standing to apply to be a part of really the next generation of the Housing Authority. And so that is a process that is currently underway. Applications are now closed. We're reviewing them. But as we do that process with the expectation that we will have new resident board members joining us in September, we have to take a moment to thank and acknowledge the service and the tenure of our resident board members. Our longest serving resident board member, Mr. Victor Gonzalez, who was our first resident board member, appointed by Mayor Bloomberg, all of which were appointed by then Mayor Bloomberg. And then with the subsequent governance changes, the addition of Ms. Lewis and Ms. Bird, who really rounded out, I think, a really fantastic perspective of resident leadership throughout the city. So I want to thank each of them for their service. I do want to give them, I won't give you 3 minutes, I'll give you a minute to each say something. And then we have something here on behalf of the 600,000 residents who call NYCHA home, whether in our public housing program or in our Section 8 program, as well as the 11,000 men and women who come to work, ready to work every day to serve what would be the second largest city in New York State if we were a city. We want to thank you. We want to thank you for your time, your service, your commitment, your willingness to take phone calls from residents in the middle of the night because they think that you can get to me and other people. We want to thank you for your advocacy for the issues that matter to you, the experience that you brought to your role, whether as a longtime community advocate, an educator, civic leader, all of those experiences being very, very critical to my understanding of the task at hand. And I want to thank each of you for that. We have a small token of our appreciation that we'd like to, on behalf of the entire board, present to each of you. And I also want to give you, an opportunity to say something, but certainly on behalf of the general manager, the entire executive team, and the fellow board members who unfortunately couldn't be here today, I want to thank you for your service. I know and fully expect that you will continue to work on behalf of the the vision of NYCHA of creating safe, clean, and connected communities for all of our residents in your civic roles that you continue to hold. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Gonzalez and then go down the line and then.
May I defer to the ladies first?
Always a gentleman.
Always a gentleman.
I defer to Ms. Lewis.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's really been a joy. It's been informative. I've learned a lot. I know it's still a lot I need to learn. It was a pleasure because when I met with Mayor Bloomberg at an event, he said that we were supposed to be a voice for the residents of all the 5 boroughs. And except for Staten Island, I think I've been in all 5 boroughs. And as the chair said, people have called and I've tried to do my best, whatever it is, to help out in whatever concerns that they had. So I'd like to thank the chair, the general manager, and all of the people here, the other board members, Velma and everyone. Thank you very much. And I still would like to continue to be a board member, but I know it has to be over. And at first I wasn't going to reapply. And then I was called by so many of the RAB presidents and they invited me to one of their meetings. And at that meeting, I said I wasn't going to reapply, and they insisted that I do reapply, which I did. And they also sent a letter to the chair and to the mayor, so we'll see what happens. But thank you very much. It's been very pleasant.
Thank you. I don't really have that much to say. It's been a pleasure, whether I serve in my community or on this board. Wherever there are NYCHA residents, I'm going to do the very best I can to make the quality of life better for them. Thank you to the chair, general manager, all of the NYCHA workers, Vilma and Mariella, and everyone that I'm coming, Miss Kelly, of course, and all of the staff here. It's been a real pleasure. What I'm going to do is one last request that I have. I got a picture from a lady who is the head of a nursing home in Auburn, and across the street, we're not really being good neighbors. And so I'm going to give this to the general manager and ask that you clean up our development in Auburn, which is across the street. She serves on the board of directors with me for the health center that I serve. She asked me, could I do something? And that's what I'm doing. So please clean it up. Thank you. Still working. Still working.
Morning. Oh, they'll hear me. In my 5-year tenure, which I didn't think was going to be that long, I thought it was one term and I'm gone. I have to say that I had the honor and the privilege of serving the authority, its residents, and the employees as well. It felt very, very good being able to try and make positive changes to possibly make the authority all that it can be, and the contentment and happiness and safety of the residents, as well as the workers of public housing. I cannot tell you the experience of these 5 years. I met many wonderful people here at the authority. You know, those of you that we have just a professional connection, thank you very much for all your help in dealing with me, because sometimes I would be not so easy to get along with, so to speak. But for those of you that it became even more than just a professional connection, we became friends. I'm sure you'll be hearing from me, but NYCHA will be hearing from me as well. I may not be a board member come September. Not that I didn't apply, because I did. But if I'm not a board member, you'll certainly still be hearing from me, especially whoever sits in the general manager seat, because according to the governance, that's who we're supposed to go to first and then deal with everything else. But I will still be a staunch supporter of public housing. I think it is the true last bastion of affordable housing in a city that needs housing, affordable housing as well. And so I'll be in that faction as well in my whatever endeavors I take. I have a lot of things that I haven't completed yet, and I plan to go back to that and get past what just happened to me physically. But I want to thank the authority, both mayors, of course, the CEO, my fellow board members who helped me through some time because I was the first, so there was no rule book or nothing to show me what I was supposed to do. So, what is that? Experience by fire?
Trial by fire.
Trial by fire. And then they came along and, of course, helped me along with some of the issues. The general manager, who I've known for years, even before when he was in New York prior and then left and now back again. I want to thank corporate secretaries, all of you, for everything that you did for me and for the authority, and hope that you have the success with Next Gen NYCHA, and that we move forward with more transparency, with more concern for the residents. And even if we're not here, let's hope and pray that whoever follows us will follow and do what we did. I always use this term, this saying, even when I was in the military. Just because I'm not in my uniform doesn't mean I'm still not vigilant. So that goes for this country as well as this organization and the city of New York. So thank you very much for allowing me to serve.
Join me. Thank you. Thank you, board members. Thank you, each of you again for your comments, for your service. I know this is not the last time we will see you. I know we have an upcoming public hearing, which we will see you at again, as well as other business throughout the month of July and August. So again, thank you for that continued work and for your service today. Okay, we're going to jump right into the chair's report. Want to give folks both an overview, of where we are. We're more than a year and a half, almost into our implementation of Next Gen NYCHA. As you'll recall, the plan revolves around our 4 key pillars: achieving short-term financial sustainability, operating as a better landlord, rebuilding and preserving our portfolio, and engaging with residents in a new and different way. This should be imprinted in everyone's brain in terms of the framework in which we are working on. I also think it's important to note that these specific strategies, there are many sub-pieces to this as well. There's a lot of work happening within the authority that's driving some of the important metrics, but more importantly, what's happening in people's homes. We have a lot of work to do, but important to note that this is the framework that guides us. Wanted to give folks just a quick update on where we are in terms of our finances. Remember, we started from a place of preserving the authority, improving the short-term finances of the authority, so that we can deal with the $17 billion capital needs. One important part of that is diversifying our funding, given the increasing, the decreasing federal funding to public housing overall. So to date, we've done a number of things, whether it's bringing online spaces, commercial spaces that were formerly vacant, which represents actual revenue to the authority, also actually bringing in new businesses and services to the authority. So this is a new tenant in Williamsburg Houses, I believe, a new ophthalmologist that's working to service that community, bringing online a space that had long been dark and dormant in that community. We're doing this across the city, working with the New York Public Library in Upper Harlem, bringing what will be the first new library in that community in over 20 years within a NYCHA development. So this, when we talk about connected, this is a key component of that vision and also has revenue implications. Our core business is a landlord. Some people don't like that name, but that's what we are. We are the country's largest residential landlord, and we have a lot of work to not only to restore our commitment to providing safe, decent, and affordable housing to our residents. We continue to drive down, and this is the work that the general manager and team are working on, drive down the time that it takes for basic maintenance. Last year, this time, they were actually the beginning of last year, we were at a 21-day time period for basic maintenance. This is non-skilled trade work. That time now, as of April, is about 6 days. So we are actually below the standard, which is 7 days overall. Still a lot more work to do when it comes to that skilled trade work. We're not where I want us to be. We're not where the industry points us to be as well. But I think you'll hear in my presentation, as well as the general manager, some of the levers that we are pushing and pulling to drive us to those improved outcomes. A ton of technological upskilling, shall we say, making it easier for residents to request maintenance, whether that's through the NYCHA app, which is available in English and Spanish, Android and iPhone users for free. Also, just last week, we added a third digital van to our fleet, which travels around to developments providing free internet, Wi-Fi, computer services to residents. We've now been serving about 18 developments. We're able to double that with the addition of this new van, which is supported through a municipal grant via the city. So really taking advantage of resources that are out there that can help better connect our residents to opportunity via broadband and the internet. By the end of this year, all of our maintenance and trades staff will have access to handhelds. This will eliminate what now is a maddening process of thousands, millions of pieces of paper moving to and from people's pockets, to desks, to offices, lag times, things getting lost, etc. Now actually having that in real time, being able to improve the productivity of our staff while also driving towards more accountability. And that is something that our team, led by Bob Morano and his staff, have been diligently working on. A ton of work around what does it mean for NYCHA to be a better landlord. We started out in 2014 talking about a concept known as OpMom. We have new name, but better results, working smarter, producing better results. Now known as actually I'm skipping a slide, so I'm gonna go back. FlexOps, I was talking about next gen operations. What here is we launched on July 5th, our effort to try and bring NYCHA into the 21st century around customer service. The business of property management happens beyond the hours of 8 to 4 p.m. as evidenced by that picture that you shared. In 12 sites, we've launched FlexOps, which is a staggered shift schedule, working with our colleagues at 237 and residents around how to provide better customer service. When you leave for work in the morning, your floors are clean, your trash is picked up. Instead of taking time off to visit the management office, now management offices are open one night a week until 8 p.m. And so we are in week 4 of this 4-month demonstration. And the anecdotal evidence suggests that this has been very well received, but we continue to work to develop other metrics, and we'll continue to report back out to you as to how this is going. This is a very important initiative, not only for the authority, but for the residents. This is why we do this. How can we improve what's happening on a daily basis? A ton of work happening throughout the city to make our developments safer, cleaner. So tons of lighting being installed, additional CCTV cameras and layered access being installed. I think everyone knows that these types of capital interventions are supported by our city council colleagues, and so we've been installing them when we get the money, and we do that on time and within the calendar year. Pleased to say that we've now completed 4 of the 15 lighting projects, and I think another 6 are scheduled to be completed by the end of this year. So a ton of work happening in that part of our portfolio. As we talk about rebuilding and preserving our portfolio, June was an amazing month for us in terms of the type of activities, development activities in the 3 lanes of our development program within the new construction, the selection of the developers to build 100% affordable development at Millbrook, Van Dyke, and Ingersoll, the selection of our first, our developer to implement our first RAD application in Ocean View Bayside, and the submission of one of the largest applications to HUD for the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, or what we call here in New York, PACT, Preserving Affordability Communities Together, submitting that to HUD for approval to work to improve 5,000 units. We await a final decision from HUD on that. And then we also issued the RFPs for our first 2 50/50 sites, where we will also be adding to the affordable housing portfolio while also creating some additional revenue for the developments where the actual construction happens. So a ton of work happening in the development space, and as we know, development has a long horizon, but we are focused on this like lasers to continue to meet our pipeline expectations. A lot of repair and recovery work happening, whether through our Sandy program. I'm sure the GM will talk more about this, but we now are in construction at all of the affected Sandy sites. And are moving very quickly on the mayoral funds that are helping us to replace roofs across the city. Construction is underway to do this work. Ultimately, we are working to preserve these buildings, seal them from water, do the kinds of pointing activities that are so critical, that are driving, that help eliminate some of the leaks, et cetera, that are happening in people's homes. As I mentioned, our preservation efforts, which is really surrounding the work of RAD, Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, or PACT here in New York. In less than about 60 days, our staff with City Hall staff engaged more than 1,000 residents across the city in all 5 boroughs to talk about why RAD was an important component for NYCHA. It was surprisingly received quite favorably. We've created a stakeholder group that includes advocates who oftentimes are on the opposite side of us, frankly, but also realize that this is an important tool coming out of Washington that the Housing Authority must take advantage of. So a lot more to come here, and we'll continue to keep you updated on that. Lots of work happening in our the 4th pillar of Next Gen, engaging residents in new and different ways. We've spent a fair amount of time reorganizing our community programs and development group. We'll come back to you with a more specific presentation on some of the work that's happening there, building on some of the important successes that we've had in job placement and workforce development. So we'll come back to you with more information on that. Any questions? Tried to rush through a lot of work.
I just have more of a statement than anything else. In the process of doing flex ops, I know that certain developments decide that on 1 day a week they will see residents with issues that they may have at their development. Now, will that take away from the time that the management office will have to see the residents having the flex op program? Because the flex op program will then that's the time that they take to do their job. And so meeting with the residents, are they still going to be able to have another day that the management offices can pick for the residents to come to them with the issues?
So if I understand the question, within the 12 developments, there's 1 day a week in which the management office is openly to everyone who lives at the development. It is not, so it is truly a customer service driven activity. People who work shouldn't have to take off work to get to the management office that closes at 4. It's now open till 8. By appointment, they can come and talk about whatever issues are happening in their apartment.
Just wanted to make sure that it's
Open
very,
to everyone.
yeah, it's important to the residents to have that one day or those couple of hours so that they can express directly to management. Sometimes things, because of situations, may get, dropped in the crease or whatever, but this will help in getting better relationship between the management office and the residents of public housing. Thank you.
I'd just like to say with the flex ops, I know you just have it in 12 developments now, but with making those appointments, so that means that the manager could only take a certain amount of appointments in that one day,
So remember, the management office is open 5 days a week.
Right.
So that has not changed. There's one day a week
That
where
they
the
can do
office
that.
is open later.
Okay.
So you, residents, still have every right and opportunity to visit any other
day.
time.
Okay.
We're just making one day, the office hours are later for
Right.
those people who work, who can't make it to the office between the hours of 8 and 4. So
I
it
just
is
wanna
not
say-
subtracting, it's actually
Right.
adding time for people who may not be able to go during the regular time.
And there should be notices put up in those developments so that the residents will know that one day for the working people that can't, come like any other time.
Absolutely.
So they will know.
Absolutely. We've worked really closely with the resident leaders in each of the 12 developments to make sure that they know. There were robocalls that were done to the residents who live in the developments, letting them know. You are reminding me that I think we might want to do that again as a reminder, General Manager, in terms of timing, to make sure people know that it's
Okay.
open. But you're absolutely, it is an additive, not subtractive.
Okay. Thank you.
My comment would be, I'm very happy for those developments that have flex op because they would have a full complement of staff. But for those developments that do not have flex op, they are short staffed. Now, when I come to this board, I bring to you my personal experience. And my personal experience where I'm living right now, and I've sent an email to the general manager, is that we are down 5 workers. Our ex-man who drives the truck has put in his retirement papers and will be leaving at the end of this month. There are other workers who are senior workers who are retiring because they cannot take the workload. They're giving 5 and 6 and 7 buildings. People are out on vacation, people are retiring, so that means the work has to be shouldered by those people who are still working, and they are overburdened. I had one worker crying in my arms. 90-degree weather, she's out trying to cut grass and clean up the grounds. So while I'm happy with flex op for those developments that have them with the full complement of workers, other developments are short-staffed, and we need to kind of get some relief for those workers there because they're overburdened. We did have one lady that had a stroke, lost the sight in one of her eyes, and she had to retire. So it's too much work being put on our workers.
Thank you. Perfect segue into general manager's report. Yes.
Thank you. Morning, board, chairs, public. I'd like to present the operational activities of the New York City Housing Authority for the month of June 2016, looking at financial indicators, work order indicators, vacancy indicators, and customer service. Rent collection in June, there was a slight decrease of rent collection from 77.4 to 76.4 of overall rent collected versus all rent billed. And a reminder that we're using the TAR system for reporting rent collection as well, which actually records the amount of money that's uncollected over the amount of money that is all billed. So it's kind of a converse, or and then the important one that I want to keep pointing to the board is the performance of our managers on a yearly basis. Within the last 12 months, we've collected 95% of the rent that we billed. This is an important indicator because it shows that there's a difference between all the past due delinquencies that are tracked on the box indicators, but it doesn't really reflect the performance in real time. Even though it was a slight dip, we looked at this as something that required some additional action. So we conducted a webinar for our managers last week, which looked at developing some strategies around, for example, looking after smaller balances so we can improve like the delinquency rate, as well as very targeted approaches to the larger delinquencies. On the work order overview, again, I'll talk about this some more as we got to talk to skill trades. But we continue to see the impact of apartment assessments as skill trade work orders, which are more complex work orders, have to be scheduled for the future and are not addressed during the inspections as we do with the maintenance work. We are looking at more of our stock through inspections. It is creating more work orders, and we are not keeping up with our skilled trades. One of our business process reviews is looking at identifying those parts, those components that we're doing on operations, and moving them over to capital, for example, that we could actually look at reducing some of this backlog by having some component parts dealt with in a capital program. On the work orders, we continue to see the emergency work orders. We consider to see a dramatic decrease, and that is, as you can tell, when you look at the yearly performance, heat and hot water is a big driver of our emergency activity. In the good weather, we actually are able to get to over 92% of our work orders within that 24-hour period. And as the chair noted in our NYCHA successes, we continue to perform well below our own internal target of 7 days for maintenance work order reductions. This is again an indicator of the amount of work that we're doing in the apartment during our maintenance activity. One thing that's been layered on this is what we call the 5 Alive program. It was part of our health and safety program. We were doing more advertising on about how we could be safer with elevator uses, etc. The 5 Alive means that our maintenance workers, as they're going through the inspection process, are now looking at the smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, window guards, the life safety notices that should be posted on the door, ground fault circuit interrupter outlets, making sure that they're operable, and entrance closures and latches as things that we're adding to our review. And if there's any of these components need replacement in real time, we are doing that now. Skilled trades. One of the things to notice, again, even though these numbers continue to increase, when you look at the amount of work orders that are created and the amount of work orders that are closed, we are actually creating more work orders, but we are also doing more work, even though these numbers continue to drive up on a monthly basis. And again, I think we're now looking at ways, creative ways through our business process reviews. Are we getting materials to our skilled workers fast enough? Are the workers performing at a level that they need to work? Is our supervision correct? Is our planning correct? So these are things that we find as being a real major driver in our overall performance, and it remains a high priority. Department turnaround time. The year-to-date turnaround time for June 2016 of 49.2 days is a reduction of 9% compared to the 53.5 days, which was done last June. Going through this report, our customer satisfaction still is at that 81% level. In the month of June, there was a drop in the number of people who participated in completing the survey, and we think that may be attributable to vacations and folks not being around when we make those phone calls. Chair Board, that completes the report of the General Manager for the month of June. Thank you.
Can I just go back to before I pick them?
Yeah, I'm waiting for you. I have something.
Okay, no, I was just looking at the numbers. The skilled trade service is going higher. And you said you were looking at a lot of different variables to try to figure out what was causing it. What did you glean from, trying to find out why this is higher?
We're actually going through a process right now where we're looking at individual skilled trades to see if there's what we can do for those skilled trades and how it impacts our overall effort. For example, we've looked at exterminations and exterminators to see what are the business flow processing in that and where we actually have some problems of planning and material. We're in the process now of looking at our plumbings What we're finding are that it's kind of not a single thing. I wish it were a single thing, but in some situations where we're just not getting materials or supplies to our workers when they're there, the situation where we're not planning the work and the sequencing of the work properly, where we're not supervising the work that's being done, or if the work that is being done isn't being done at the level that it needs to be done, and we have to go back and fix that work. So there's a lot of variables. I think the one thing that we are starting to do is to sort of call it the geo mapping of the type of work items and where they're located. And one of the tools we have at our disposal is to look at moving those component parts. For example, if it is a cabinets that are an issue that's really causing a lot of skilled trade work orders to be a high number, we have the ability to replace all those cabinets in that development, reducing the number of work orders, and using that as one of the tools we have. There's a lot of things going on right now with this. Again, I think
The last conversation I had with the maintenance worker in my building when I left is a rat infestation problem in the building. I'm beginning to get the smell. I said, are there cats in the basement? He said, no, we have a rat problem. The skilled trades have to come in to do something to get into those ducts, he was explaining to me. So if we haven't.
We can't hear you back here.
I'm sorry. I'm saying that the last conversation that I had before I left home this morning, I live on the ground floor. And I mentioned to the maintenance worker that I was smelling an odor coming up I thought it was cats, like a cat litter box. He said there are rats in the basement. So my question with regard to skilled trades is that the skilled trades, either the people who do rat infestation or someone have to get into the ducts and open them up to get the rats out of there. So that's a process that they need to look at to try to expedite it. You know, we are having a rat infestation problem all over the city, not just in the basements of public housing, but that impacts the quality of life for those who live on the ground floor and certainly for those in the building. So that's my concern. What are we doing with the skilled trades to try to expedite those things?
if I can, board member, heretofore, we've been looking at extermination of the rats specifically as whoever is screaming the loudest, that's where we will go to. We're now looking at embedding it as an agency-wide program where it's not just putting a baby in one apartment, knowing full well that the apartment next door is full of bugs and that those bugs will just go there after it's completed. One of the things we've done very successfully recently, and I think specifically to the comment that you got this morning, is that at Patterson and at other places, and I want to recognize Janet Abrams and all the work that she's done in our next generation operations to look at holistic solutions. This one where we found that unexcavated basements are an area that the rats are just living and breeding, and our ability to keep up with that extermination has been very difficult. By concreting that entire basement, killing the rats and removing them and concreting the basement, has now meant that we're no longer creating a breeding ground for rats underneath our buildings. So that's the type of thing we're looking at, very holistic solutions of root causes of what these issues are, so that they no longer continue to contribute to our work order numbers.
Yes, the only thing that I have is kind of want to rebound or go over something that board member Byrd said with regards to, with all the programs that are going on right now in NYCHA that's helping to I guess us move forward, like RAD and Hot Mom and Flex Up. And I know that we have that irresponsibility by the federal government taking away our monies. I was wondering if there was a way that we can somehow refunnel some of the finances that we get in the hiring of more personnel, which would certainly affect the numbers on these reports that you have just given us, because then we can implement all those other things, like many tickets to one apartment can be addressed, 5 of 6 could be addressed on the same day. And if we had the personnel to do that, the rat infestation and some of the work tickets. I mean, not only the regular work tickets, but the emergency work tickets would also come into play. You also have the move-outs, which, excuse me, with more personnel, the number again will go down. And so I was just wondering if you guys can consider either refunneling the money, or if I'm using the wrong expression, please correct me, but at least to see if we could start hiring people, and those numbers will certainly go down.
Well, our new Chief Financial Officer, Karen Caldwell, and our Executive Vice President for Administration, Carrie Jew, have looked at the issue of our hiring, and again, using the word pain point, that whole process. We're finding that granted, we are truly under funded by the federal government, no question about that. However, we're also finding that the monies that we do have not been spent as well as they could be on expediting the replacement of personnel within the existing budget. And so we're now finding that, and FlexOp has been a great tool for us to help focus on this, finding ways where we can cut through and have better systems where the operations people have better communications with budget, having better communications with HR, and that we're finding that we're starting to fill those positions a little faster within our existing budget.
I also want to say that there is there's a citywide conversation happening across other city agencies about how quickly, sort of the process of hiring staff. NYCHA, I think certainly our residents feel it the most because we have actual frontline, caretakers, maintenance folks, et cetera. But this is a conversation that several of us just had actually with the commissioner of DCAS, which manages the civil service process, manages the hiring process. And so what I tasked the GM and the team to look at is, let's map the hiring process and understand why it takes so long, why someone who we know is retiring, why can't we fill that position, or at least have someone ready in the queue to start quickly. So that process, we've mapped that process. There are some things that are actually out of our control. And that's a conversation that we're having with DCAS. Of course, we like to think we're special, but this is a conversation that lots of agencies are having with how quickly titles are coming, the list process via the civil service process, how quickly that happens, how quickly we respond back to them. So where we are in control and where we can improve our own internal processes, we need to do better. But there are some of these pain points that are external to NYCHA. I think this has been a really important process because I don't think heretofore it had been something that we truly understood. And through that, we found something like 130 people who were budgeted for who are now actually at the development, caretakers, maintenance workers, et cetera. So, through this asking a question, via my visit at Douglas one day, we have actually been able to populate and staff some of the development. So it's this kind of, when we talk about next generation, it is not simply about development, it is truly about changing the way we do business, how quickly we can get people onboarded, trained, and at the developments, and improving our own internal processes. So more to come on this. But I think your broader question about, how do we identify new resources for the broader employee base is one that we clearly need to have as the financial picture of the authority improves.
Okay.
Can I just tag on one thing? I've had this conversation with the manager. If the driver of the truck, who is an ex-man, comes to me and says, Ms. Bird, I just want you to know I'm retiring and 30 days I'll be gone. And then I say to the manager, if you know that Roger is leaving 30 days hence, why can't we start applying for his replacement? We don't have that many people qualified to drive the trucks. So then we're down one person, the garbage is there because we can't use but one of our trucks. He says, I gotta wait until his papers go in and he's, retired or something he has to get before he can put it in. It's like, there's gotta be a gap in between. How can we collapse that gap?
Absolutely.
So that when we know people are going out, we have the people in the pipeline and we can, put them right in place. I mean, that's a problem that I see.
Well, that's an excellent example of what we are doing right now in terms of charting and mapping that type of those conditions and how we can get folks like that back on, replacements back on board as quick as we can.
But I just piggyback on it, and I know we have to move on, because this is a problem with all of the developments, just about. They don't have enough workers, you got people with 3 buildings, caretakers, that they have to clean. And it's, we're having a heat wave right now. And I talked to, like Miss Bird, I talked to a lot of the workers, and it's not that they're not trying to do it, and then you have the residents saying that my building is filthy, my building is not being cleaned. So hopefully, between the chair and the general manager, that we can do something to bridge this gap, because it's really, and this is what causes roaches, rodents, and all of this, So I think if we can get more people in the process, like you say, now they got to put in their papers, and then, they got to wait until this goes through and that goes through. And in the meantime, the residents are suffering. So, it would be, if anything that y'all could do about that to bridge that gap a little bit, would be very highly appreciated by the residents, especially, because we're the ones that suffer the most.
Big focus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to our formal calendar. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Karen.
How are you? I'm Karen Caldwell, Chief Financial Officer of NYCHA, and I'm here to present the first 4 board resolutions. So board resolution number 1.
Put the mic closer to you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, I am presenting board resolution number 1, requesting authorization to award the authority's general liability insurance program policies at a premium cost of $3,951,300. The policies will be provided by 5 separate insurers in 5 separate layers, with each insurer providing successive levels of coverage to reach the program limits. The insurance companies are Gemini Insurance Company, Lloyd's of London, XL Insurance America, United States Fire Insurance Company, and Navigators Insurance Company. The general liability insurance program policies provide insurance coverage for torts in the amount of $100 million per occurrence and $130 million in the aggregate above the authority's $1 million self-insured retention. The program also includes $100 million of auto liability coverage. The renewal program premium of $3,951,300 is 8% or $342,854 less than the expiring program premium. All policies will have a 1-year term commencing on August 1st, 2016, and continuing through July 31st, 2017. With that, I request your approval to award the renewal of the general liability insurance program as described. Any questions? Board resolution number 2. I am requesting authorization to award the authority's $25 million public officials liability insurance policy to Illinois National Insurance Company, a member company of American International Group, which is in excess of the authority's self-insured retention of $500,000. The policy will also include a $12.5 million sublimit for employment practices liability coverage, which is a $2.5 million increase in this sublimit from the expiring program. Public official liability insurance coverage provides insurance for errors, misstatements, omissions, neglect, or breach of duty. The insurance extends to cover board members, officers, employees, volunteers, and members of NYCHA's audit committee while acting on behalf of the authority. Employment practices liability coverage protects the authority for loss arising from actual or alleged acts and/or behaviors included, but not limited to, wrongful dismissal, harassment, and discrimination. The renewal premium is $250,000, which is a $29,000 or a 10.4% decrease off of the expiring program premium. The renewal policy will have a one-year term commencing on August 1st, 2016, and continuing through July 31st, 2017. With that, I request your approval to award the renewal of the public officials liability, including employment practices liability insurance program as described.
Ms. Hall, what do you attribute the, we're paying less now than before. What do you attribute that to? Did we get incentives or?
No, in fact, we're getting a bit more coverage in both cases, and we're paying a bit less. And it's really been, when they put it out for bid, if you have, sometimes insurance is based on actuaries, the insurance gets cheaper, so after Sandy, the insurance got more expensive because of the occurrences, and now we're at a point where insurance has sort of dropped, and the bids were just more competitive. People are trying to get more business.
And she's very good.
Yeah.
Well, Arlene is very good. Arlene Ornstein is very good in my insurance group, so.
Awesome.
All right.
Get more for less, that's good.
All right.
Thank you. I just asked if we could try and fix the echo. Okay.
All right. Item number 3. The authority has a contract with the City of New York Office of Payroll Administration since 1999 to provide payroll services. Commencing April 2015, the Office of Payroll Administration, which I'll refer to as OPA, has waived the payroll processing fee to the authority. However, third-party costs for the commuter benefits program will continue to be passed through to NYCHA. The Finance Department is requesting board approval to renew the OPA contract in increments of $75,000 per year for 3 years, totaling $225,000. The renewal of the OPA contract and the associated costs are inclusive of the wage works charges passed through by OPA. By way of background, NYCHA entered into an agreement with OPA for the administration of its payroll services in 1999. NYCHA's decision was mainly driven by the year 2K issues. OPA, a city agency, was selected based on its ability to comply with complex civil service rules, processing of retroactive payments due to union collective bargaining agreements, and its extensive experience administering payroll services for other city agencies. As a result of transferring the administration of payroll services to OPA, NYCHA achieved and maintained savings associated with headcount reductions. OPA processes payroll and human resources related transactions through the city's payroll management system and the New York City automated personnel systems that we call NYCAPs. The scope of payroll services provided by OPA to the authority include, but is not limited to, accurate and timely payment of wages to all NYCHA employees, processing of employment taxes and salary adjustments, payments of employee benefits and other salary deductions to third parties, printed paychecks, payment services, and W-2s. With that, I request approval of the OPA contract. Lastly, I'm presenting Board Resolution number 4. Pursuant to Board Resolution 10-12/22-1, the Board approved execution of a 5-year agreement with EnergySolve to provide a web-based utility management information system and related services for an amount not to exceed $1,512,200. Commencing on January 1st, 2011, and continuing through December 31st, 2015. However, it included a 1-year extension option. An extension letter was sent to EnergySolve effective February 1st, 2016, stating that the authority exercised its option to extend the agreement for an additional year through January 31, 2017. Authorization is requested to amend this agreement with EnergySolve to increase the not to exceed amount by $100,000 in order to fund the continued provision of services for the remainder of the renewal option, which again commenced on February 1st, 2016, and is continuing through January 31st, 2017. EnergySolve provides the authority with web-based utility management information systems and related services. EnergySolve designs and provides a web-based utility management information system to manage the authority's utility accounts and data for the following commodities: electricity, gas, fuel, oil, steam, and water. EnergySolve reviews, processes, and pays all of the authority's utility invoices, as well as audits such invoices for accuracy, maintains an accessible database of utility usage records, and provides the authority with periodic reports on utility usage. EnergySolve also provides telephone and web-based technical assistance to support NYCHA, as well as consulting and analysis on methods of achieving energy efficiency and cost savings. NYCHA anticipates a new contract will be awarded for a new UMIS system and a utility invoice processing service, and that RFP has been released and vendor responses are under review. With that, I request your approval to increase the not to exceed amount for our existing contract with EnergySolve by $100,000 to $1,612,000 to fund the remainder of the contract, which expires January 31, 2017.
Questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Terry Jew, Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer, and this morning I'm presenting together Board Resolutions.
They can't hear you.
Okay, sorry. I'm presenting Board Resolutions 5 and 6.
Give us a minute. Technical difficulties.
Are we good now?
Yeah. Get a little closer.
Closer?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know. Own it, Carrie. Take the mic.
In Board Resolution number 5, I'm requesting authorization to amend the agreement with Trigen Technologies, Inc. And in Board Resolution number 6, I'm requesting authority to amend the agreement with IIT Trailblazers, LLC. Both agreements are for staff augmentation services, and with both amendments, I'm seeking to increase the not-to-exceed amounts by $500,000 each. The agreement with Trigen was originally authorized by the board in resolution number 13-10/23-28 and amended by subsequent resolutions to renew for one-year terms. The current term expires on December 4th, 2016. The agreement with IT Trailblazers was originally authorized by board resolution number 13-10/23-28 and amended by subsequent resolutions to renew for one-year terms. The current term expires November 25th, 2016. By way of background, NYCHA has engaged 3 vendors for staff augmentation services: IIT, IT Trailblazers, and Trigen. Under these agreements, the vendors provide NYCHA with temporary employees on an as-needed basis when a specific skill set is required and existing authority staff cannot perform the work. The implementation of next generation NYCHA, as well as unanticipated business projects related to emergency regulatory requirements, has increased the need for additional specialized resources, particularly within the IT department. This year, in 2016, the candidates provided by IT Trailblazers and Trigen have possessed a skill set needed to implement these initiatives, and as such, NYCHA has been finding more employees from these 2 firms and fewer employees from IIT than originally anticipated. This has resulted in a surplus of $1.9 million in the IIT contract and a deficit in funds to fulfill the contracts with IT Trailblazers and Trigen through their expirations in November and December, respectively. Therefore, I'm requesting your approval to reallocate $1 million from IIT, with $500,000 being reallocated to IT Trailblazers and $500,000 reallocated to Trigen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nicole Ferreira, Vice President, Real Estate Development at NYCHA. I am here to present item number 7, requesting authorization to submit a Section 18 application to HUD for long-term ground leases of 3 parcels of land with zoning floor area at Ingersoll, Van Dyke, and Millbrook houses. On July 1st, 2015, the authority and the Department of Housing Preservation and Development jointly issued a request for proposals to develop affordable housing for next-generation NYCHA sites in the Bronx and Brooklyn for households with income below 60% of area median income. In May 2016, the authority and HPD announced the selection of developers to develop these 100% affordable low-income housing projects at the following sites with the following developers. At Ingersoll Houses, BSC Partners and its affiliates will develop approximately 145 senior housing units with 1 unit for a superintendent and a senior center. At Van Dyke Houses, Dunn Development Corp. And its affiliates will develop approximately 187 family units and 1 unit for the superintendent with a community center as well. At Millbrook Houses in the Bronx, West Side Federation for Senior and Supportive Housing and its affiliates will develop approximately 155 senior units and 1 unit for the superintendent with a senior center and neighborhood room in that development. As a condition for receiving city financing and as specified in the RFP, NYCHA will be ground leasing the project sites at a nominal rent of $1 per year. The ground leases will be for a minimum term of 60 years. The selected developers have offered to pay the Housing Authority a share of their developer fee. The authority will receive less than fair market value for the ground lease of the project sites. However, the proposed projects will provide commensurate public benefits of additional low-income housing and needed community facilities and services to those communities. A second board resolution will be presented to the NYCHA board in approximately November 2016. This is based on approvals to request authorization to ground lease the project sites for the selected developers or their affiliate entities to develop affordable housing upon receipt of HUD approval of the Section 18 applications and financing commitments for the projects. The proposed ground leasing of the project sites, as documented in the 2016 PHA plan, was vetted by the Resident Advisory Board. Also pursuant to HUD's regulations governing disposition and leasing of property, the authority presented the development proposals to the respective resident associations through a long resident engagement process and to the authority's citywide council of presidents and obtained a letter of support from the deputy mayor for housing and economic development. Therefore, it is recommended that the members authorize the chair, the general manager, or their respective designees to execute any and all documents deemed necessary to submit the aforementioned Section 18 applications to HUD in order to effectuate the projects for the purposes and on the terms described herein, and upon such additional terms and conditions as the general council's designees deem appropriate. Any questions?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. What aspect of this project or transaction makes it require HUD approval? Is it the disposition through the ground lease? Is that?
Yes.
So that's the trigger there.
Yes. So any disposition NYCHA does, whether it be through a ground lease, a sale, an air rights transfer, trigger Section 18 disposition requirements by HUD.
Because HUD is participating in the financing.
Because HUD oversees the Housing Authority, and there's a declaration of trust on our land that has to be released.
Okay. Good. Thanks.
Okay.
The only thing I have is a comment. I just want to thank you for explaining Section 18 to me.
No problem.
I had one concept of what it was, and you explained that it's much more than just what I thought. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I would be remiss. Thank you so much for your service, resident board members, and your support and your tough questions over the years. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, item number 8. Okay. So item number 8 is seeking authorization to submit a Section 18 application to HUD for the disposition of a parcel of land with zoning floor area at Fulton Houses. So the history of this project. In 2006, the authority and the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development jointly issued a request for proposals to develop affordable housing on 3 West Side sites at Fulton Houses, Elliott Chelsea Houses, and Harborview Terrace. The project site on West 18th Street, as shown with the board resolution, is currently used for parking and a trash compactor yard at Fulton Houses. In 2007, the authority and HPD selected Artemis Construction Incorporated, known as Artemis, as the developer for a site at Fulton Houses and at Chelsea Houses, pursuant to this 2006 West Side RFP. Artemis completed a 168-unit mixed-income building at Chelsea Houses in 2012 and obtained city approval of the proposed building envelope and a zoning map change for the project site through the Uniform Land Use Review Procedure in 2013 for their Fulton Houses project that we're talking about today. Negotiations for affordable housing development resumed in 2014, and the proposed 18-story building with a footprint of 7,316 square feet will contain approximately 159 rental units and 1 superintendent unit. The unit mix will go from 50% of area median income up to 165% of area median income. From 2014 to the present, council member, community board, and Fulton Housing Resident Association leadership have participated in discussions of parking replacement as well as basketball court and playground improvements to be made as part of this project. The project has a total development cost of approximately $68.5 million, including a $4 million payment to the Housing Authority. In addition to HPD and HDC subsidies, the project will receive $4.7 million that was pledged by Chelsea Market for affordable housing within that community district. A second board resolution will be presented to the board in approximately November 2016 based on approvals that NYCHA receives to request authorization to dispose of the project site to Artemis or its affiliates to develop affordable mixed income housing upon receipt of HUD approval of the Section 18 application and financing commitments of the project. The proposed disposition of the project site, as documented in the 2016 PHA plan, was vetted by the Resident Advisory Board. Pursuant to HUD's regulations governing disposition of property, NYCHA presented the development proposal to the Fulton Houses Resident Association and to NYCHA's Citywide Council of Presidents and obtained a letter of support from the Deputy Mayor for Housing and Economic Development. Therefore, it is recommended that the members authorize the chair, the general manager, or their respective designees to execute any and all documents deemed necessary to submit the aforementioned Section 18 application to HUD in order to effectuate the project for the purposes and on the terms described herein. Any questions on this item? Yes, sir.
Just one.
Yeah.
In Section 18 applications,
Yes.
when we go for a disposition, let's say, of a parcel of land,
Mhm.
do we or are we required to always use the ULURP process?
No. So in the Fulton Houses scenario, the reason that ULURP was pursued was because there needed to be a change to the zoning. So when NYCHA is developing affordable housing on its land, we go through the Section 18 process always. When there has to be a change to New York City zoning regulations because of that development, then the project will also go through ULURP. So with no zoning change, just Section 18. With the zoning change, ULURP and Section 18. Okay.
I just want to say I attended a lot of meetings in Wyckoff houses because they're taking parcels of land from them. So it kind of triggers my thought with Fulton houses. One of the comments that the resident, she spoke earlier, said, you need to give something back to the community. It's like a show of good faith. We're coming in, we're going to take this land. What are you giving them? She mentioned scaffolding that had been up for 2 years with no work being done. So
Right.
Can you expedite the work and remove the scaffolding? That would give something to the community in good faith. You've got to give them something if you're taking something from them. That's the experience that I had in Wyckoff.
Right. Yes, and thank you for your comments, Ms. McGee. We are actively having these conversations with resident members at Fulton Houses, As we noted, there's going to be upgrades to the basketball courts and the playground areas outside of any monies coming to NYCHA, and this will just be part of the conversation. So I've definitely noted these concerns about the scaffolding and issues at Fulton.
And I also think the scaffolding is part of local law 11 requirements, and we as a follow-up, we will, because the mayor actually did give us, provide dollars for us to remedy those local law 11 violations. So we'll just double check. Farhan, I don't know if you know that right off the bat, if and when that contract is let, so that we have resources to actually do that work.
Right.
One of the challenges that we have had, as you know, is we put up scaffolding and there was no capital dollars to remediate the issues found. The mayor, and when the mayor came and asked us, how can we take down some of the scaffolding? We said, we need money to fix the actual buildings. So can you just follow up with us and let us know if we have where that money is from you know?
Right.
Okay.
Let me
You do
just
know?
give you.
Yes.
Wait, let's answer that one question. Farhan, just introduce yourself and answer
This
my
is going through the approval process with ORG and controller.
Good.
Work is scheduled to start in Fulton houses this September.
Great.
And will be finished by next summer.
Excellent. Did everyone hear that? Got that? Good. All right. Now your next question.
She said that the meetings had more staff people present than residents. So if you're communicating with the residents, it's like we're talking to ourselves if the staff is there and the residents are not. So then how do you get more residents to come out to the meeting so they can feel that there's communication going back and forth?
Yes. What is your suggestion to help remedy that as a resident board member? Because I will tell you, we have an entire group of NYCHA staff who do nothing but knock on doors and call people.
Right.
Okay.
So give us some suggestions about how we might get people back to meetings or in meetings, or how to make it interesting, how to get people to attend meetings. We have them at different times. We have different kinds of meetings. Would love your specific suggestions about how to improve the outreach.
I have a question.
Wait. Just want to answer.
You want a specific?
Yes.
As I said earlier, give them something. If you poll the residents and find out what are their needs, what are the things that they would like to see happen, and then you actually make something happen for them, they will begin to believe you, and then more of them will begin to come out. So it's incentives. If you give them something as an incentive, they'll say, okay, they gave us this, I'll go to the meeting the next time because we have a conversation. In Red Hook, Red Hook is known for being hostile. The residents will come out and I feel sorry for the NYCHA staff because they would be so hostile toward them. When they started to have a real dialogue with them, and I would sit in these meetings, suddenly in the newspaper, they put how wonderful the meetings were, how cooperative the meetings were. The tone changed.
And what do you attribute to that change?
Well, I
Change in
think
tone?
one of the things that contributed was because I was sitting there and I don't let the staff, the residents to berate the staff.
Thank
They
you.
say to me, when you're there, everything goes a lot easier. But, you have to build up a trust. I think that's the key.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No, I just wanted to piggyback on what she said, because trust is the main thing. Because when, as a matter of fact, Fulton Houses had meetings with Senator Perkins. I've been in those meetings and everything, and there was not enough information being generated to the residents as to what was going to happen, how it was going to happen, and all of this. So as she said, you need to be a little bit more transparent with the residents and let them know, well, this is what we're going to do, with this, and this is, because I had the same problem in St. Nicholas with the school being built.
Different administration, just want to put that out there.
Yeah, but it was very hostile, that before you got
Different
there,
time.
surely, but wasn't that different, and it wasn't that long ago. 2013 is 3 years down the road from 2016.
A lot has happened in 3
Yeah,
years.
and some of it was good and some of it was not so good.
Right.
But anyway, we're gonna move on, but like she said, you need to be, and she said, more transparent and offer them something, because with the I don't know how much it was given. I was the president at the time. They said that they got $7 million for the land. Guess what? That money went someplace else. So I'm just hoping that in the recent things that's happening now, that they will give back something to and they need more than just playgrounds, okay? Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay.
Item number 9.
All right.
So item number
Going out
9.
with a bang, Ms. Lewis. Go for it.
Yes.
I'm just saying,
I
if
got
that's what
We
happens.
got you. Go ahead.
This is the last
I hear you.
Seeking authorization to submit a Section 18 application to HUD for the disposition of a parcel of land, a retail strip near Ocean Bay Apartments in the Rockaways. So this site is a combination of vacant land and vacant one-story retail storefronts located on Beach Channel Drive between 53rd Street and 54th Street. In the mid-1990s, NYCHA received Hope 6 grant funding from HUD to develop and implement a plan for neighborhood revitalization in the Auburn Edgemere area that is home to 2 public housing developments, Ocean Bay Bayside and Ocean Bay Oceanside. The 1998 Auburn Edgemere Hope 6 revitalization plan identified poor quality retail, including past sale date merchandise, high prices, poor customer services, and inferior products as a significant neighborhood issue. In 2003, the authority acquired the site, a combination of vacant land and vacant one-story retail storefronts located on Beach Channel Drive, through eminent domain in order to transform it into a new retail location designed to achieve certain objectives, including but not limited to improved access to affordable and quality goods and employment opportunities for authority residents. In 2015, NYCHA selected a developer pursuant to the 2014 Ocean Bay Retail Request for Proposals for retail redevelopment of the site in furtherance of the objectives of the Hope 6 revitalization plan to facilitate the development of a community and retail building comprised of approximately 17,700 square feet of supermarket and associated retail space, as well as an approximately 1,700 square foot community space. The fair market value of the site was appraised at $1.09 million pursuant to an appraisal dated July 26, 2012. The authority will receive approximately $250,000 for the disposition of the site. Although the acquisition price is less than fair market value, the development of this site will provide commensurate public benefit of quality goods, foods, and services to Ocean Bay, Bayside, and Oceanside apartments, as well as the surrounding community in the Rockaways. A second board resolution will be presented to the board to request authorization to dispose of the project site for development of the project upon receipt of HUD approval of the Section 18 application and final financing commitments for the project. The proposed disposition of the project site as documented in the 2016 PHA plan was vetted by the Resident Advisory Board. Pursuant to HUD's regulations governing disposition of property, the authority presented the development proposal to the Ocean Bay Apartments, Bayside, and Oceanside resident associations, and to the authority's Queens District Council of Presidents, and obtained a letter of support from the Deputy Mayor for Housing and Economic Development. Therefore, it is recommended that the members authorize the chair, the general manager, or the respective designees to execute any and all documents deemed necessary to submit the aforementioned Section 18 application to HUD in order to effectuate the project for the purposes and on the terms described herein, and upon such additional terms and conditions as the general counsel or general counsel's designee deems appropriate. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, when you sell a project or a parcel for significantly less than its appraised value, is there any particular process you need to go through to come to that decision, and how does that work?
So the process through the Section 18 application with HUD is that we have to prove what the commensurate public benefit is. This project being a little bit different because we're typically only doing this for housing, and usually it's the low-income housing nature of the project. But in here, it's the public benefit to the community with the community facility and the lower retail prices for the goods at the supermarket. So that would be the public commensurate benefit proof that we provide.
And how was it that you got a bid that was, or you accepted a bid that was so much lower than the appraised value? Is that?
It was through the RFP process, and actually, as I stated, we are solidifying the project's financing so that when this comes back in front of the board, after HUD approvals, we may have a higher acquisition price. We're currently negotiating the financing with the developer. So that's not the end price.
Not
at this
necessarily.
point. Not necessarily. That was what was in their proposal to the Housing Authority. We're negotiating it now.
Thanks.
Yes.
You want to say
I would
something?
just, this project is a long line of, I like to call them legacy projects, projects that were started 10, 15, 20 years ago. Prospect Plaza, Randolph Houses, Fulton. And so one of the things I tasked Nicole with is to get this stuff done. And I will tell you, this site is also across the street from one of our developments where we just started permanent construction in Sandy recovery. And the residents are, you know, it is such a sort of physically disconnected part of the Rockaways, and to have a grocery store and a facility there is going to just be a complete transformation. So you know, this is sort of very much in line with our vision of clean and connected, and more importantly, working with residents in that community. The Ocean Bay Community Development Corporation, Pat Simon has been a long time resident advocate, and a number of other groups. So while we are, sorry,
They will have a space.
they will
there.
have a space there, obviously per all of the approvals that we need to go through, including this board. But I think it's important to note that this administration is also doing work that started 10, 15, 20 years ago, and that there are real lives attached to the work that we're doing.
Well, I wholeheartedly support the building of the supermarket. I'm out in the Rockaways at least 2-3 times. Beach Channel Drive is the drive that I go up and down. You know, I've come up the street to Bayside.
Yeah.
And the city councilman, Donovan Richards, has long been talking about a supermarket in that derelict site. So
Right.
not only will it give food to the people of the community, wholesome food, but it will also take away an eyesore.
Yes.
So it's greatly needed and appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Morning.
Morning.
Louis Ponce, Senior Vice President of Operations for Support Services. I'll be presenting items 10 through 13. Item 10 is a request to enter into a 3-year requirement contract with Craftsman Supply Corporation for the purchase of various types of plumbing and heating supplies. This contract does not include installation. The contract does include delivery for installation by authority staff at any of our developments and also at the Long Island City Warehouse. The required delivery time is 10 days. This equipment is the mechanical and the electronic devices that control the boilers and the other apparatus that we have to replace through a normal wear and tear of using this type of equipment. The contract is a not to exceed amount of $1,017,896.79. Craftsman Supply Corporation has successfully provided the authority over $14 million worth of this type of equipment over the past 5 years. Okay, item 11 is a request to enter into a 2-year requirement contract with Alpha Environmental Services Incorporated for asbestos removal, disposal, reinstallation, and related work at any authority facility or development in preparation for various renovation jobs. All asbestos removal and disposal will be performed in accordance with city, state, and federal laws and regulations. Housing Authority, whenever we enter into a capital contract, we do testing to make sure if there's any asbestos impacts, that it will be included within the contract. The Housing Authority also employs a small amount of our own asbestos handlers in case through incidental, if we're going to replace a pipe and we come across asbestos, that will be handled by the in-house staff. This contract is kind of to carry the middle of those two instances. So if there is a contract that is started and for some reason there is an unforeseen circumstance, we can use this contract so we won't hold up the capital work. Or if during our repairs, the job is a lot larger than we can handle with our in-house staff, that's when we would call in this firm. This contract is a not to exceed amount of $1,313,160.25. And Alpha Environmental intends to hire 1 resident in the title of asbestos handler to carry out this contract. Yes, sir.
The question I have is what you just mentioned. One, section 3, obviously it must be because you need particular skills. to do this type of work? And that's why just one Section 3 hire?
There is skills and there's a licensing that needs to be done and have to be maintained. There's one.
I just wanted to comment on the plumbing one that you were saying, that they come and they deliver the supplies, but then someone else have to do it, you know?
Mhm.
So the thing is, you know, most of these developments are 60 years plus, so I hope, you know, y'all will stop patching and start actually putting in the stuff that's really needed, so we don't have these hot and cold water problems forever. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, item number 12 is a request to enter into a 3-year requirement contract with Home Depot USA Incorporated for the purchase of various types of smoke detectors. The contract does not include installation. It includes delivery to any authority development and along NYCHA warehouse. The required delivery time is 15 days. This contract is for both photoionization and ionization and photoelectric smoke detectors. These are the 10-year sealed batteries with an end-of-life alarm, which is required under local law. The not to exceed amount for this contract is $1,031,144.70. Home Depot has supplied us about $1 million worth of similar supplies to the authority over the last 5 years successfully. Okay. Item number 13 is a request to enter into a 3-year requirement contract with Cuisine Crotona Incorporated for the purchase of interior laminated doors. Contract also is not installation. They will deliver to any authority development and a Long Island City warehouse. Delivery time is 15 days. These are not the doors to enter the apartments, any doors within, the bathroom doors, the bedroom doors. This is the type of laminate doors that this would cover. This contract is not to exceed $5,859,902.50. Cuisine Crotone has provided over $8 million worth of similar supplies to the authority over the last 5 years successfully. So I also wanted to echo Nicole's. Really appreciate the service, the dedication, the perspective that you've given us to better serve the residents of the authority. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Farhan Sayed, Vice President for Construction Programs, Capital Projects Division. Welcome back, Board Member Gonzalez.
Thank you.
I wanted to echo my colleagues' sentiments as well for the board members' service, your help, your guidance throughout, and making this process go so smoothly. I'll be presenting items 14 through 20. Item number 14 is a request to the board to reject all bids for a requirement contract for grounds improvement at various developments in Manhattan and Staten Island. The proposed work included was removal and replacement of various pavements, curbs, installation of new play equipment, safety surfacing, steel bar fencing, and furnishings. CPD seeks to reject these bids because there is currently sufficient capacity in the awarded requirement contracts for the scope of work. Therefore, the capacity included in this contract is not required at this time. Items 15 through 17 is a request to the board to award 3 separate job order job contracts for local law 11 at various developments citywide, with a not to exceed aggregate amount of $75 million. As part of capital projects, project division's comprehensive plan to address unsafe conditions identified through the Department of Buildings Local Law 11 Building Safety Program, 3 separate job order contracts were issued for bids. The contractors competitively bid their adjustment factors based on the pre-established prices in the job contract's construction task catalog. The bid factor estimate for these job order contracts is 1.21. The contract term duration for each job contract is 2 years with 2 separate 1-year renewal options. These job order contracts are designed by geographic region. The scope of work includes exterior brickwork repair, roof replacement, and installation of sidewalk sheds. The bids were advertised on March 31st, 2016. Following the invitation to bid, a proposals conference was held on April 15, 2016, and 6 firms attended. The bid opening was held on May 25th, 2016. The contractors, they competitively bid their factors. Their bid factors range from 1.2350 to 4.0074. After evaluating the bid factors and the intended scope of work for these job contracts, CPD conducted a post-bid interview with all the vendors and evaluated their capacity as well as their current workload for each vendor, and recommends the award as follows. For item number 15, for Bronx and Queens, we recommend award to Adams European Contracting with a bid factor of 1.2350. For item number 16, we recommend award for Manhattan to Acrogeneral Contracting Inc. with a bid factor of 1.2880. And item number 17, for Brooklyn and Staten Island to Acrogeneral Contracting Inc. with a bid factor of 1.2580. All three contracts are $25 million in aggregate, not to exceed amount. The Section 3 part of it is basically monitored on an assignment by assignment basis. Both contractors are familiar with the Section 3 part of it, and they will be monitored and evaluated on an assignment by assignment basis. Item number 18, we request award for Carlton Manor restoration associated with the Sandy Recovery Program to the lowest responsible bidder, AWL Industries, Inc., in the amount of $19,588,148. Carlton Manor consists of one building with 174 apartments. This contract will provide for the restoration of this building as part of the Sandy Recovery Program. The scope includes, but is not limited to, the restoration of affected first floor spaces, new boiler building and electrical annex to house equipment above flood levels, installation of standby generator, dry flood proofing, flood mitigation measures, electrical feeder replacement, site lighting, full roof replacement, and site restoration. The term of this contract is 570 days. AWL has been in operation since 1979, and they have been awarded 6 job order contracts with a total value of about $60.3 million. Their work performance has been satisfactory, and they understand the scope of this contract. There are 6 projected Section 3 hires. Item number 19 is a request to award Cassidy Lafayette House's exterior restoration and roofing contract to the lowest responsible bidder, Adams European Contracting Inc., in the amount of $11,659,864.98. Cassidy Lafayette is a turnkey development exclusively for seniors located in Staten Island. It consists of 4 residential buildings with a total of 380 apartments and 1 non-residential building which houses the senior center. This contract will address all 5 buildings which were identified through the New York City Department of Buildings Local Law 11 Cycle 7 facade inspections and the physical needs assessment as being in need of repair to the exterior facades. Once repair is completed, these buildings will be filed as safe with the Department of Buildings. The scope of work for this contract includes roofing replacement, parapet replacement, new metal railing, exterior brickwork, window lintels, masonry repairs, bulkhead facade restoration, and scaffolding installation. There are 4 Section 3 hires projected for this contract. Adams has been in operation since 1994 and has performed 4 projects as a prime contractor for NYCHA, valued at over $124 million, and 4 projects as a subcontractor, valued at over $1.1 million, and their performance has been satisfactory. Item number 20 is a request to the board for a change order approval for Albany 1 and 2 exterior brickwork restoration roofing replacement contract in the amount of $8 million. Pursuant to board item number 15-6/24-19, contract number RF 1507031, provides for exterior brickwork restoration and roofing replacement related work to correct New York City Department of Buildings Local Law 11 facade conditions for all buildings at Albany 1 and 2. Albany 1 has 6 buildings, and Albany 2 has 3 buildings. The scope of work includes replacement of existing roofing with a liquid applied system, coping stones replacement, window sills and lintels, painting of lintels, asbestos and lead abatement, sidewalk shed, and pipe scaffolding installation. During the pre-construction, additional interior inspections were performed on apartments not previously accessible during the design phase. The joint inspections were performed by TDX Construction Corp., who are the construction managers, Capital Projects Division, and Technical. Their findings concluded where water infiltration was evident, additional brick replacement, caulking, lintels, and asbestos abatement is required. The exterior inspections were performed by TDX and Hacks Engineering, which found additional facade repairs were needed. Subsequently, we received a determination from Heritage Architecture, who are the qualified exterior wall inspection firm, the QEWIs as we call them, of the additional masonry scope and sills, which must be replaced in order to comply with the Department of Buildings requirement for Local Law 11 Cycle 8 work. The cost of this work is about $8 million, which includes an allowance to address local law cycles and to file these buildings safe with the DOB.
Mr. Zayed, so did someone on our staff know that the Technico and team weren't able to get into apartments before we started the pre-construction phase?
In the design phase, this is the contractor.
Right.
So in the design phase, there's a sampling of apartments that
Right.
is done. And the sampling usually gives you a projected quantity of work. Based on that, our contract was designed. When the construction started, in the pre-construction phase, before any work was performed, we did additional inspections and went into each and every apartment. And these quantities were much higher than what were projected and anticipated in the design phase. So in essence,
It's an
even if they were,
$8 million mistake.
right, it's a mistake, but even if they were included in the scope of work, we would need to do that work in order to have these buildings safe anyway.
Would we have known that there may have during that, I guess, so how do we avoid an $8 million mistake, right? Because the explanation here is, well, we didn't get into enough apartments before we started this, and so that's why we need the change orders, and you know I hate change orders. So how do we avoid this?
Two things. During the design phase, access to as many apartments as we can,
Right.
and tighten up our design pre-surveys.
Right.
And that's basically our process of doing the new inspections. These were done last year in the design when cycle 7 was in place. So in the new contracts, we are accessing more apartments to make sure that all of these repairs are covered in the design phase. So we have the right quantities in the contract.
And so clearly with the objective of wanting to get work started as quickly as possible, because that's what we want to happen, there has to be some check that apartments have been checked before we begin another phase of the process, because now this is an $8 million oversight essentially. So I hope that we are aligned and that there's a real process in place to avoid such mistakes.
Agreed and understood, exactly. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gonzalez.
I just have a question. I'm a little confused. So when we have these local law 11s and the management office is contacted that they're going to be putting up the scaffolding. So the process before that, how does that work? Does that mean that some city inspector walks into our property, goes into the building, deems it unsafe, then contacts the authorities to tell us that we have an issue at this particular development, and then that's when we address the issue? Is that how it works?
There are two ways of that this happens. One is as a result of our planned cycle inspections that are done by our qualified exterior wall inspectors every 5 years as a part of the local law 11 repair cycles. And sometimes the Department of Building sends their own inspectors out there to check certain buildings that are 7 stories and above. And they inform us that there is an unsafe condition at one of our buildings, as a result of which, if the building is deemed unsafe, we have to install sidewalk sheds as per the mandate.
There's very little opportunity. There's no opportunity to redress, or if they say it's unsafe, you gotta do it.
Right. It's just that my problem was, they just come on the property and say, hey, I'm going in here and checking this and there's something wrong. The shed's gotta go up and we've got no say in the matter. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Chair, 20 items were presented for board approval. Do I have a motion to accept?
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you,
Thank
staff.
you.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you.
We do not meet in August. Have a great
Yay.
rest of the summer. See you in September.
Bob.
Thank you.